This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. KCM Wealth Management.
Who under the age of 40 can afford to buy a new home or even an old new home, especially anywhere in British Columbia, but especially within the confines of the city of Vancouver? The prices are, as we all know, just sky high, and that's not just the west side of town anymore. It's all over town, which makes the issue of rental housing stock, how many rental units do we have in this community, more and more crucial. Where and how are so many of our citizens and neighbors going to live? Elizabeth Murphy is a former property development officer for the city of Vancouver and property development and senior development officer for BC Housing. And she's been following this issue closely because she is a social and urban commentator, and she has some real concerns about the decision-making process that may or may not help us maintain and build on that rental housing stock. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, so we just had, we had this thing called STIR, which was a program at City Hall, and now that's been sort of heaved out. It's been thrown in the drink, which is dangerous because we don't have Coast Guard anymore. And and now we have Son of Stir. Just in a simple way, what are those two programs at City Hall? What do they mean?
Well, the original STIR program, which stands for Short-Term Incentives for Rentals, was originally approved in 2009 as a incentive program for building purpose-built rentals. And it had many problems. The first of all, it was brought in without any public consultation.
Lovely.
And when they developed it, it was mainly giving a lot of density bonusing
Right.
and other problems that came up. Actually, in January of this year, Brent Todder, who was then still the Director of Planning,
Yes.
he had outlined three main problems with the STIR program, and one of them was that it did not create much rental.
Really?
No, only a
But
few
wasn't that
rentals.
the purpose of it?
It was, but it wasn't a lot of units that they
Okay.
created. Two was that they needed huge height and density increases as bonusing for the developers.
Yes.
And that they would waive all of the amenity contributions for amenities that would help with the,
Yes.
these are development fees that would help with the providing amenities for these projects.
So just in plain English, for a long time, the City of Vancouver was saying to builders, if you build rental housing, we will what? Give you more height or more units to build, and we also would like you to provide a park and an arts center and what?
Well, yeah, generally how it works is if you're not talking about a rental project,
Yes.
Just a regular strata, then they would calculate what they call development cost levies, DCLs, and also community amenity contributions, which are CACs.
Like?
And they would pay for things like parks and daycare and all of the things that people need who, it helps to offset the cost of development. It doesn't cover the cost of development, it helps to offset it.
Okay.
The rest of it is covered by our capital plan, which is paid for by the citizens through their taxes. So the but on top of the waiving those costs, which actually came out to, in some instances, up to $100,000 per unit. So it was a lot of money that was forgone by the city for each of these projects. And on top of it, they were supposed to be affordable, but it turned out, and this is one of the other things that Brent Todderan also confirmed, is that the rents for these projects were really quite unaffordable. Actually, one in particular, as an example, they've just recently finished one of the projects at on Granville Street. It's 1142 Granville.
Yes.
And the units there are only 320 square feet apiece, and they rent for starting at $1,200. For 320 square feet, and these were subsidized.
You completely hit an issue. I'm glad you're there because I want to get to it. One of the things that I've noticed is that while the prices continue to be high and or escalate, guess what's shrinking? Living space.
Oh.
So more, units that used to be 900 or 1,100 square feet and it cost $1,100.
That's right.
Those units are now 400 square feet and cost $1,100 or $1,200.
Right.
So who's winning here?
Well, and that's one of the big issues about this program, and especially the new program that they've now brought in, is that if it puts more pressure, development pressure, on the existing stock, which generally are larger units and they're usually more affordable than the new stock, then that will end up with a net loss of affordability, not actually a gain. And this new program that they just brought in May 15th, the council just approved, is going to apply directly to zones that are the main source of the existing purpose-built rentals that we have in the city.
Like what? Down around the two bridges?
Oh, it's all over the city. There's the majority of them are in the West End.
Yes.
In the older neighborhoods, like the apartment districts. So you've got Mount Pleasant, Strathcona, the Grandview Woodlands, Kitsilano, Fairview, and down in Marpole. And those are the and actually in Kerrisdale too. But those are the neighborhoods that could be greatly impacted by this new program, and also the ones that have a lot of heritage. So those buildings could come down too.
One gets the sense that the current Vision Council really wants to create more affordable housing.
Oh, yeah.
But you're saying that this new program, which you're calling Son of Stir, this new program is even worse than the original one.
Yes, that's right.
Why? Why is it worse? What are the problems?
It's worse for a number of reasons. For one thing, the three main problems that they had with the STIR program, especially that they were creating these oversized developments that were out of place for the community, waiving of the amenity cost charges, and also that they were unaffordable units, essentially. These things will not be addressed by the new program, but they're saying that because they're going to make these projects now 100% rental rather than split between market rentals and strata, that somehow this is going to fix that problem, and it doesn't. It simply doesn't.
Well, since you and I agreed that we were going to do this program, we had a major announcement in the paper the other day, and that was that Aquilini has said that he's going to put up a huge complex rental project. He's calling it probably the largest rental project in Vancouver in the last 30 years, right next to the stadium, right next to the hockey arena. Okay, what do you make of that one?
Well, for one thing, it's not really clear. I've looked at the report that is coming to council this week, and I noticed that on the comparison of what they're rezoning, like it actually was already zoned for high rises on that site, but it was a mix of commercial and residential, and I'm not clear on what the mix was originally approved under, and what they're going to build now, how that compares with it.
Well, look at this. One bedroom, 500 square foot unit will rent between $1,100 and $1,200 a month. 500 square feet, that's a hotel room.
And they could be smaller. Under this new program, it can go down to 320 square feet.
3-bedroom, 900 square foot unit between 1980 and 2160. In other words, $2,000 a month for 900 square feet, 3 bedrooms, which means that each bedroom is the old joke. My room was so small. How small was it? I had to go out in the lobby to change my mind.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too that whatever they claim is likely going to be less than what they actually are. Like, for instance, that one that I mentioned to you on Granville Street.
Yes.
In the report, they said that those 320 square foot units would be $960 a month, and they ended up being $1,200 a month.
And they're not even 400 square feet.
No.
I mean, that
320. And that's also under this new program, is that they can go down to that smaller unit is 320. So essentially also you could take like larger units that are in, say, the RT zones, which are essentially the old heritage houses that have been divided up into suites. You could take that down, put up an apartment building that has 320 square foot units in it instead of larger units that were more affordable.
But don't we have a huge challenge in front of us, and haven't we always had it, which is to encourage people with the loot to do this, because it costs a fortune to break ground and pour the cement, to bother building rental housing. Well, how can we encourage them without breaking the bank?
Well, I think that we have to take a completely different approach to it, but certainly this is not going to happen when the advice that the council is looking at, and they're not going out and consulting with a broad spectrum of
what
people.
Are they doing? They're talking to developers.
I think so. I mean, obviously, by the kind of programs that they have. Like, for instance, the one that's coming up for public hearing tonight, actually, is 1401 Comox.
Oh, yes.
And it was extremely controversial. It's been delayed, actually, for 2.5 years. That's how controversial it was. And essentially what they're doing there is they're taking, this is in the middle of the West End, in an area that is mostly actually low-rise right around there, because the West End has tower separation guidelines.
Yeah, Comox and Broughton.
Yeah. So it's very lower area. Anyways, they are going from what would be in their outright zoning. You'd only be allowed to build 6 stories and up to 1.5 floor space ratio, FSR. And instead, under this program, just because it's rental, and they call it affordable, whatever that means. Yeah. It is going from up to 22 stories from 6 and up to 7.14 FSR. So that's almost 500%, almost 5 times as much density as what you could otherwise get on that site.
But this presents a real curiosity, because Vision has positioned itself historically from the beginning as the antithesis of the NPA.
Right.
And here they are behaving like an old NPA gang.
Absolutely.
And going to bed with the developers, which is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but it would help if there was some public input.
Absolutely, it has to have a balance of things, you know, and the irony is, I mean, I voted for them in 2008, you know, hoping that they would be doing something different than Sam Sullivan, and you know, I'm very disappointed with the direction that it's gone in. Seriously,
you remind me of Kevin Kline opening the vault in what was that movie he wanted a comedy Oscar for, and going, disappointed. we have to take a break, Elizabeth. We'll come back and we'll get more into this and talk about the role of CMHC, which I think you and I agree is crucial and missing in action.
Absolutely.
We'll take a little break, folks, and remind you that davidberner.com is our site. We're happy to have you visit and check out Facebook, Twitter, and send us messages and so on. Especially if you're lost somewhere, we might come and find you. And also an opportunity for our sponsors to say hello and let you show their faces. These are the folks who enable us to be on this program here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4. Back in a minute.
This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors: the Vancouver Courier newspaper, KCM Wealth Management. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC.
What a concept. All right. I do want to remind you, as we did last week, that we have a wonderful new sponsor, the Trial Lawyers Association of BC, and point out again that this is a not-for-profit society, 32 years strong, members united with the goals of protecting the rights of individuals, assuring access to courts, preserving the jury system, and so on, and often doing a lot of pro bono work. It's a very simple tenet, boys and girls. If we don't have a criminal justice system or a justice system that works, then we don't have democracy. So we're delighted that they have taken on this television show. So we continue with our discussion about the rental housing stock with Elizabeth Murphy. And just as we're going to break, we mentioned CMHC, and it struck me that, you know, we can't talk about rental housing without mentioning what has happened to the you know, first largely liberal but also conservative governments in Ottawa for 30 years cut away at health care, cut away at education, cut away at all these things. But one of the things that most people don't notice is Central Mortgage and Housing, which used to do very wonderful, creative social housing work.
Absolutely.
Where has it gone?
Oh, I know. It's a terrible travesty. I actually, when I was working for both the city and BC Housing, was right when CMHC was pulling out of the program. And at that point, the NDP had just come in. This was in the early mid-90s. And they brought in a provincial version of it, of social housing. But it was much more limited, but it's still, at least they were doing a lot of co-ops, and that was an important source of social housing. But yeah, it's a huge problem. We need senior governments because the city cannot do it all. And
the city can't do it all, and individuals can't do it all. And look, here, you know, Aquilini has this huge project that he's talking about right next to the hockey rink. Then he's talking about a 12-story rental tower at 14th and Oak, which is a good location. And our former sponsors, Goodman's, just had one of their biggest sales because they sold at Lougheed Village in Burnaby, one of Metro Vancouver's largest multifamily rental complexes, just sold for over $80 million.
I know.
Now, do you see all of that? The two Aquilini sites and the sale of this Burnaby site, do you see those as good things in helping rental stock?
I don't know. I suppose there's good things about these being built. I think the problem that I see is that certainly with the ones that are happening in Vancouver under the STIR or the SONA-STIR program, is that they're still doing it in such a way that it is requiring huge density bonusing. Many of the projects are out of scale for the neighborhoods that they're going into, and also that the amenity contributions are being waived so that we're bringing in more people with less amenities to service those people. And I think that we have to find a different way of doing rental housing is what I'm trying to say. I think it's good to be building it, but it's just how we do this. I think we need to be looking more at inclusionary housing policies as opposed to just these let's make a deal kind of
one of the problems
arrangements.
that I see in terms of public consultation is that so often what is laughingly called public consultation looks to me like a PR exercise, to be blunt.
Yes.
It's just, well, let's feed the chipmunks, some popcorn and chat with them for a few minutes so they'll feel good and not bother us.
Yeah, and now they're not even doing that. with both of these programs, they didn't even put them out for public consultation at all. So both the STIR, when it came forward, it went directly to council, and same with the Sinister.
What's the latest news out of the Wall family's project at Shannon Mews? We had Carl, I forgot his last name, I want to say Knickerbocker, but it could have been Knickerbocker, something like that. But he was a very, very interesting guy as our guest ages ago, last year.
Yes.
And he lives at Shannon Mews.
Right.
And he was very concerned about the way this was developing.
Right.
And I know that Bruno Wall and gang have had the community involved, and there are lots of concerns and so on. You know the latest?
It was passed by council last July.
But they've had to massage a lot of the details.
Yeah, that's the normal process that you go through with the development permit process, but it's already passed the rezoning, so you know, I am not that familiar with the details of what they've done. I know that it had to go to the development permit board. Okay,
look, here's Metro Vancouver Housing Committee, and the mayor of New Westminster, Mr. Wright, Wayne Wright, is chair of that committee.
Right.
And he and Mark Gordon, who is the CEO of BC Apartment Owners and Managers, they published a pretty good piece in The Sun May 28th, not that long ago. Headline, Canada needs a rental housing plan. Jobs will go unfulfilled if people don't have affordable places to live that are close to work and transit.
Right.
Agreed?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, this struck me as unusual coming from the mayor of New West and the CEO of BC Apartment Owners and Managers Association.
Why would that be unusual?
I don't know. I just didn't expect it from them, but it's a good thing, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, we definitely need a senior government program, and I think it should be both the federal and provincial governments stepping up.
We don't have a thoroughgoing rental housing plan, do we?
No, we don't. But at the same time, with whatever the city does do, I think that they have to be much more careful that they don't actually make it worse. And I think that the policies that they're
that's what you've
putting
been talking
forward,
about a lot.
Yes, is they are actually making it worse by putting more development pressure on the existing stock, by putting these way out of scale developments into neighborhoods where they just don't fit. Yes. And then that puts additional development pressure on everything around it.
Any news on my favorite development, which is Little Mountain?
No. Oh my God, that is such a waste.
Yes.
It has, you know, essentially they had, I think it was 200 and some odd, 250 units of large family units, ground-oriented.
Yeah.
And they were demolished a couple of years ago in anticipation of this redevelopment, of which it was actually a sale. And this is another issue of why is the government selling off our public lands. But anyways, it has been sitting there vacant. And
I haven't seen anyone digging yet.
No, they won't be for a long time. They're still negotiating.
So where's everybody living? Did they find them other accommodation?
They were all displaced. There's only a few that are left in one building.
Well, look, to spread some of the either blame and or responsibility to other levels of government, it's not just the city or cities.
No, it's not.
The premier has positioned herself as a families first premier.
Yeah.
Well, you laugh, but where are these families going to live?
Yeah.
And if the premier believes in families first, why isn't she, along with the federal government and municipalities, why isn't she coming up with a rental housing plan?
Absolutely.
For BC?
Yeah, and something that doesn't produce a whole lot of 320 square foot units, right? Families can't live in 320 square feet.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were goddess queen for a day, what would you do?
Well, first of all, I would withdraw the existing program that they have now, the Son of Stir, and I would put it out for public consultation and get some other ideas and look at what can be done within inclusionary zoning and ensure that whatever we do for incentives are not going to undermine the affordability and livability of the existing stock and for those neighborhoods where these are located.
Do you think that all of that's possible without scaring away the bankers scaring away the people who have the money?
Oh, absolutely. No, I have no doubt.
Really?
Yes.
Maybe you could explain something to me. Why I know that so many people looking for rentals look for older buildings because they'll find not only a larger square footage, not only more room to walk around and breathe, right? But also the space makes sense. Why do so many buildings built in the last 20 years
they just jam them in?
Well, but they have little corners and they call them an office or an extra bedroom or something. These weird little spaces that nobody can figure out how they got there.
Oh yeah, often they'll have like a bedroom that is more like a closet.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You can't even fit any furniture in it. Like, I mean, some of them are ridiculous.
How about a dining room with no windows? Yeah, well, I've seen them in expensive buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Dining rooms with no windows.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh.
Okay, as an individual, because you no longer work for the city.
Oh, yeah, not long
what can you
time
do
ago.
besides appearing on shows like this? Well, yeah, I know you've written a lot of pieces.
Yeah, I've basically advocated as much as I can and, doing what we can. But mainly I think that people have to become aware of what's going on, and that is not happening. That's the issue.
Okay. Well, we hope we've made them a little bit more aware. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, David.
Great to have you here. Well, next week,
pleasure.
folks, we're going to look at an issue that fascinates me, and I'm sure you. What's with electric vehicles? Why did it take so long for them to get here? I notice Canada Post is now using electric vehicles, so you can easily be run over by a post truck because you can't hear it. But where are they? Why did it take so long? And what's available now? John Stonier with Signature Renewables will be our guest. By the weirdest coincidence, he's the cousin or nephew or something of the people I play bridge with. How strange is that? Thank you for being with us. Thanks to our sponsors and to our guest, Elizabeth Murphy. And we'll see you next week here on Shaw Community Television, Cable 4.